The entire point is to get your questions into the chat during the live stream so that I can answer them. If you have questions and sometimes can't make it to a live stream, you can actually send them to me, and I will do things like answer them in a future live, like this one. Today's question comes from a viewer who probably could have asked during the live, but sent me this message. That is not the one I want. If you want your questions answered by somebody who reached financial freedom, made work completely optional, retired in 2022 after starting from a pretty bad position, this is your chance to do it. To me, the importance of the live streams is you get to find out the information that an investor keeps in their top of mind awareness. There are a lot of things that we can talk about in a video where we do some research, like the 3 biggest mistakes investors make, or which loan product should I use? But when you want to make a decision really quick, if you're looking at a real estate investment or a stock investment or something to add to your business, it would be important to know what investors keep in their mind and other things we can go and research. If you ask a very detailed tax question, for example, I will say, here's the professional I would go and get the information from. If you ask, should I have an LLC? I will tell you the 37 reasons why you shouldn't and the 2 reasons why you maybe should. And nobody has the right answer for you. They have the answer that worked for them. You're going to have to figure out if what worked for them will work for you. Dust all day today, making me cough a bit, sorry. So this was a video idea from Native to Earth. Probably an accurate name, I like it. How many properties should we aim for per year after the initial house hack? I like this question because it tells me a couple of things. The first thing, and most important to me, this told me the path the person is choosing to reach financial freedom. Right? Real estate worked for me, but that's not what I would do for everybody. There's a lot of people who I don't think ever should own a rental and probably don't want to. There's people who I would never want to own a stock. I don't like the idea of throwing money into something that can actually reduce to 0, or if you use margin, below 0. I have tried the entrepreneurial route twice. I am not an entrepreneur, I am an investor. So the question tells me this person chose real estate. They understand the house hack concept. This was probably one of the top 3 things that allowed me to reach financial freedom was, 1, that I house hacked, that I was willing to house hack. And then I did it more than once because I wasn't making a lot of money. I was starting from a position of a lot of bad debt. I was raising 3 kids as a single parent. I wasn't making a lot of money. So if I didn't house hack, I don't know that I would have reached financial freedom. If you make a large amount of money, right? Multiple 6 figures in my mind would be large amount as an earned income. Or you and your spouse both work, maybe you don't have kids, maybe you live in a lower cost of living area. Yes, you could do it without house hacking, but it wouldn't have worked for me. Didn't make enough, too much debt that I didn't know about until the divorce. And so the person says, after the first initial house hack, I appreciate that. So if you're willing to house hack, I think that's the easiest way to start getting towards financial freedom. But then I like certain questions because it tells me how far into their journey the person is, right? And so Millennial Mike, who's going to be here later tonight on this live stream, and I are going to Seattle. We did some man on the street interviews in Vegas. We're going to be doing some on the waterfront in Seattle. One of the questions we're adding going forward is going to be this question. How much does it take, or would it take, for you to retire? The answer will tell me if this person has even thought about retiring yet. Because the first thing most people throw back when you ask the question, how much do you think it takes to retire? And I'm going to give you a minute to put some answers in the comments. If you watch my content, I'll know if you're giving the answer that we talk about often. But if you're new to my content, how much do you think it takes for you to retire? What this does is it tells me, is the person thinking about money? Have they got an idea of what their retirement is going to look like? And then it takes me through, what is their opinion of money? So the question, how many properties should we aim for per year after the initial house hack, tells me we're looking at real estate. We're looking at how many per year. So the person knows, this native to earth knows, you don't just buy a rental and now you're retired, right? You don't just house hack and then you can quit. Now, there are people like Caleb, who's house hacking a 25-plex and probably could have turned that into a form of retirement, but is going to be closing on a lot more properties in the future. How much do you think you need to retire? That question. If somebody says a number, I've heard $1 million, $5 million. From some people I've heard $10 million isn't enough. When they throw a number back, I know they're interested in money, they've thought about retirement, but they haven't understood how retirement would work. Because rich people can't retire. Wealthy people can. Rich people have an amount of money. Now, just looking at money and not understanding what your burn rate is and what inflation is, and the idea that 70% of people who acquire a large amount of money super quick file bankruptcy within 5 years, right? Lottery, sports players. Being rich doesn't give you the ability to retire. Being wealthy does. And wealthy isn't a number. When I say how much do you need to retire, it's not a number. It's a monthly amount of cash flow that comes in that you don't have to sell your life for 1 hour at a time. That is more than it costs you to live your life. So wealth is an equation of how many months can you live your current or desired lifestyle if you didn't work. And so if you can live 1 month and then you run out of money, you have 1 month's worth of wealth. I don't think I would call you wealthy at that point. But if you have cash flowing assets or a dividend stock portfolio, or if you're using the 4% rule to make your withdrawal be a passive form of income that's coming in every month, that you don't have to sell your life for 1 hour at a time, and it outlasts the average human lifespan or grows because of inflation and debt pay down, then you're wealthy and you can retire. So when somebody asks the question of how many properties should we aim for per year after the initial house hack, I'm hoping native to earth hears this answer and understands that I am not judging at all. We all start knowing pretty much nothing about money and usually have bad money habits, right? Use a credit card to establish credit. No. Have a credit card, use it, pay it off daily, keep a low credit utilization, and have a long track record of having that credit card to establish credit. Sure, but use it? No, doesn't benefit you. Using it and keeping a higher balance on it can actually hurt your credit score because your credit utilization above 10% can take off up to 30 points off your credit score. So we've heard bad things. We've also heard things like, all debt is bad. And I'll tell you right now, if it wasn't for debt, I would have to work. And having to work is bad. Choosing to work is great. Wanting to work, wanting to be productive, great. I don't understand it, but it's great. Having to work is slavery, and no thank you. Been married a couple times. I can do that again. So when the question comes up, how many properties should we aim for per year after the initial house hack? I want to break down. First, there's 6 steps to getting started in real estate. These are the steps we do before we start the house hack, before we own the first rental. We do it between rentals, and these 6 steps are almost always the same for everybody. A couple of them can be tweaked based on your strategy. So the first thing we want to do, so this question from native to earth is you've done our first house hack, so you're into real estate. To get into that house hack, you did these 6 steps. You're going to do them again. You're going to learn how to save. Saving doesn't mean wrong mic is picking me up. That is not good. Maybe it just sounds weird. It's probably echoey in here because I'm doing flooring in here, Matt, but thank you. Let me try. Let me know if this mic does any better. Tell me if the sound gets better. Sound matters.
We learn how to save, and most people focus on saving and say that means spend less. And that's a part of it. But the most important part is to make more because you can only save 100%. So if you spent nothing, you can only save, thank you, Michelle. You can only save 100% if you increase your income over time, side hustle, acquire cash flowing assets, start and grow a business, all the ways you can increase. There's no limit to how much you can increase. You, like I say, it's gooder. The goodening continues. Thank you. And I appreciate when people point out if something like that's not going on because I am not a 10-year-old and I don't know how to do technology. That's not how I was able to retire. You increase your income, decrease your expenses. That's how you save. The next thing is you work on your credit. So before your house hack, you hopefully got a good credit score, so you got a better rate on that house hack. Now, if you're after, before your next rental, you're increasing your credit score. We continue to go at higher and higher credit score because things can change. A year ago, a 740 credit score, and now to get a 740 on your Credit Karma, you wanted to have about a 770 or a 780 because often what the three credit unions, credit reporting bureaus will give to the lenders is different than what you will see, up to 30 to 40 points off. So we were shooting for 770, 780 before. Well, about 4 months ago, they shifted lending to 760 now gets you the best lending. So continuously increasing your income, reducing your expenses, working on your credit score, constantly talking to lenders, right? Before that house hack, when you first started in real estate, before you started your house hack, you had to go to a lender and figure out what is my loan options. Is my credit score so bad and my debt to income ratio so bad that I have to take an FHA loan, which is the worst option in my opinion for most people. It is better than no mortgage and not getting on the property ladder, but it is the worst loan product. It is not designed for first-time home buyer. People get confused by that F and the H. It is from the the Federal Housing Authority, FHA, designed to shorten the duration of recessions. That's what the FHA loan is for. It's not to help poor people get on the property ladder. It is to encourage building and have property turnovers to shorten the length of recessions. Came out in 1934, specifically for that after the Great Depression. Conventional loans, owner occupied, are only 3% down for that first one, whereas FHA is 3.5. Mortgage insurance goes away with a conventional loan as soon as you hit 22% equity, as if you're getting it with less than 20% down initially, whereas FHA, it lasts the length of the loan. So you have to sell, refinance, or pay off the mortgage to get rid of that mortgage insurance. There's all kinds of reasons where if you don't talk to a lender, you don't know what your options are. So you did that to acquire the first house hack. After the house hack, you continue to check with the lender to see what are the new loan products. An example is November 18th, 2023. There was a random change where they just said, hey, with conventional loans, you can now do 5% down on triplexes and fourplexes, like you were able to do on your second house or on a duplex for the last few years, but now you can do it on a triplex and fourplex. If you're not talking to a lender and paying attention, you might not see when things like that happen. One of the reasons why I acquired a triplex in 2020, emptied out a retirement account, all of my retirement accounts, and purchased a triplex was because I was listening to Michael Zuber's One Rental at a Time daily update, and he was talking about interest rates coming down, that what's it doing to the price? So I ended up purchasing a triplex because I was paying attention, finding out what my lending options were continuously as it went. The fourth thing, before you start your house hack and after your house hack, when you're figuring out how many, when to get the next rental, is to make sure your strategy that you pick. So you either pick a strategy or to check that your strategy works in your market. You don't force a strategy. You want to make sure that you can still find cash flowing assets, that it's probably the best choice for you. So you're monitoring your strategy and picking a market. Now, for me, an example is I invested for 10 years in 2 counties. And then in the last year and a half. Okay. So year and a half, beginning of 2023, I started looking at 11 new markets. I expanded out a couple of counties. I found 11 markets, found 2 that made sense, started making offers there. So I studied my market and the strategy that I want to use and realized that since remote work was pushing renters out a little bit further, rents were pushing up, but prices weren't being pushed up because those remote workers don't want to buy, right? Because their employer might call them back to the office. So I found those new markets because of step 4. monitoring my strategy in my market. And then step 5 is to talk with agents and have auto searches set up. Make sure your lead sources, whether that's driving for dollars, sending out mailers, MLS searches, all of the ways that you find whatever assets you were pursuing before, you continue to do. And then the 6 is you continue to look at deals. So those are the 6 steps to get started before that house hack and after. None of those 6 steps answered the questions for native to earth. It was, how many properties should we aim for per year after the initial house hack? And the reason I wanted to explain all of this is so that native to earth doesn't get offended by my answer. The way I prefer that you look at it, right? So I didn't say yours was wrong, mine's right. I said the way I prefer that you look at it is there are 2 things that tell you when to buy. It isn't how many you purchased in a year. It isn't how long it's been since you bought the last one. It isn't whether it's before or after your house hack. These are 2 things that tell you when to buy. And I'm sorry, Crash Bros, it's not predictions in the market. It's not interest rates. It's not what we think interest rates are going to be in 6 months. It's not prices. It's not what we think is going to happen with prices in a year. It's not rents. 2 things that tell you when to buy native to earth. So this should tell you that there isn't a number that you shoot for every year, right? There can be too many, right? If you're Marcus Shiro, the financial firefighter, who empties out his retirement accounts and buys 14 units in 2 years and then realizes, wow, some evictions and some tenant turnovers and some rehabs makes this really hard, especially when you're out on the rock in the middle of the Pacific and you're investing on the mainland. So too much can be a thing. But here's the 2 things that tell you when to buy. The first one is, are you ready? Right? Are you ready? For a brand new investor often means I have a down payment, I have my money for closing costs, I have money for immediate repairs, and I have the reserves that lenders are going to require, so I'm ready. Then as you get a little more advanced, you realize that ready also means you know your market, you have studied it for 60 to 90 days to know what an average yield is in that, and you recognize a good or a great deal, so you can separate the wheat from the chaff, right? You know which ones are the diamonds in the rough, and you can hunt for the better deals. Are you ready also means, this is something I want all investors to understand, that you don't have anything major going on in your life that would take away your ability to focus on your investing, right? Birth, death, divorce, maybe getting terminated from your job, like all of the things that can happen that take away a lot of our emotional focus and whatever's going on in life. If you're ready, because you can focus, that everything that's going on in your life isn't so crazy that you have to pay attention to it. That's the first thing that tells you when to buy the next one. The second thing is, did you find a great deal? And right, so this is why native to earth, I wouldn't want to say you should shoot for 1 a year or 2 a year, or if you don't grow 25 a year, you're not going to be the next Grant Cardone. Whatever the thing is, I want you to focus on those numbers. What I want you to think is, are you ready? And did you find a great deal? You might find it tomorrow. You might find it in 2027. Right? There isn't a time clock on finding the next great deal. At some point, hunting in your market with your strategy, 6 months to a year, if you don't find what you're looking for, maybe you're using the wrong strategy, or maybe you're in the wrong market, right? So some things can shift. But if people say, I need to get 1 deal every year because I can house hack again every year, right? I have an owner occupied requirement for 12 months. I might as well go out and do this again. You might buy a bad deal because you're trying to time. When you're in stocks, you can dollar cost average. You can say, every 3 weeks, I'm going to put $500 into crypto. I'm going to put $500 into whatever. You can dollar cost average. The version of dollar cost averaging that I like with real estate is those 2 criteria. Are you ready? Did you find a great deal? So for some people, that's going to mean they get 2 properties in their first year after their next house hack. And for some people, it might be 2 years, right? I saved for 2 years, got 2 years of rental income on my tax returns by moving from my house into an apartment and renting out the house. I worked in a new industry for 2 years to be better bankable. I purchased a duplex. It was another 2 years to save the down payment, to study the market, to get the reserves, closing costs, immediate repairs, all of those things that I needed. There are other people who could do it faster. Maybe they make more, they don't have the bad debt, they're not raising 3 kids, they don't only have 1 income, right? There's a lot of those factors. So native to earth, I hope this answers your question as clear as possible without being offensive, that The reason I want people to ask questions is because it lets me take you to the next stage, right? I do defensive tactics instruction for law enforcement, and for a long time I taught martial arts. And the idea was, as an instructor, when you're training somebody in martial arts, your skill set to the person being trained should seem like you're this much better than them, right? You don't want to just be able to just destroy somebody, they can't learn anything. But if they feel like they're progressing and they're right behind you and they're chasing, they chase you all the way from starting to being belted, but you're just ahead of them. So with this, what I'm trying to do is not give you all of the information all at once so that you're so overwhelmed and you think there's too much to learn. You were ready with this question to know that it's a good question that doesn't have the answer that fits a question. It says, how do we know when we should buy the next deal is probably a question that would give you more clarity than how many should we go for each year. I hope that helps. I'm going to get to the questions and comments now in the chat. And if you, that took 21 minutes. I think that's about average. I'm usually shooting for 10 minutes, and I've done it in 10 minutes like twice in 3 years of live streams. I saw a super chat, so I want to get to that first. Where did it go? Dividend Dave. Is it a dad joke? My wife saw you on stage at the Action Summit and thought a bear was on stage with Millennium Mike. I think that was a compliment. Actually, a bear with a millennial, that makes him a twink. Don't process that. I'll take it as a compliment. Martin Properties, first, I need to learn Zoom. We should get you on here. Basilio, howdy. Janitor on Fire, Michelle. It's good to see you last night. Didn't get to talk much last night. There was, 20 people at the Tacoma FI meetup last night? It was a great turnout. Wolf Building Journey, Jason, howdy. John, howdy, John. How is everybody doing? Good. Ready for a new Dion Talk? I hope the Dion Talk was enlightening. Buzz to get to work. Financial firefighter. Aloha. Buenos dias. Millennium Mike. Nice. Ready when you get back. He is transporting somebody right now. Legacy OPP watching from the buffet. Nice. BuzzTune, howdy. So BuzzTune, a couple other people here. There's a course video tonight at 6 p.m. Pacific. So hope to see you there. If you haven't seen the email coming out from in the course, all of the month of May, every Tuesday after the live stream. And we're probably going to do a Saturday or Sunday, not next one, because it's Mother's Day and people should spend time with their mom. But I still miss you. I miss you too, Dad. And because there's some people who can't make it on Tuesdays, and I want to make sure they get there. So once the course videos are done, right, we all on Zoom, we all do portfolio deep dives. Those will be uploaded into Futureland in the course. All-nighter hider, I'm piloting my truck. Roof is done. Nice. I hate roof work. Actually, I don't mind roof work. I hate getting the stuff up there. Laura, howdy. Good to see you. JR, what is your thought process around taking a tenant to court for outstanding balance due? Any threshold to let you go versus pursue? I'm trying to think if there's an amount small enough that I wouldn't pursue. Probably less than $500, but it depends on the interaction with the tenant. Because the idea of taking a tenant to court for me is never to get the amount of money from the tenant. It's to get the transactions, the problems the tenant had on their record in the court system. Judgment, eviction, help the next landlord. There are so many laws in place to protect tenants and very few laws in place to protect landlords. One of the things we have is the ability to read between the lines when we do a credit check or a background check and see things that pop up with people. So I feel it is my job to help the next landlord. If the tenant has a reason, is communicative, it does some effort on the exit strategy, I'm probably less likely to pursue. But if in any way I think the tenant just said, I don't have to, that's why the court system exists. And so for $7, I would pursue. Comes down to the personality, the interaction between me and the tenant. So not so much a dollar threshold as a irritation threshold. It's a great question. Thank you, JR. T, the Yoder, howdy. All 29 watching and 15 likes. Come on, show some love. Only if my content earns it. And if you hate my content, because there are some haters out there, make sure you hit that dislike button. Do it twice, so I know for sure you meant to. Oh, did I get some haters today? I love social media. You can ask them to leave and refund the remaining rent. The deposit will cover a lot of expenses. It will often. If the tenant leaves legacy on like really bad terms, messes up the house or does whatever and leaves, my lease has a lease termination fee. And Washington State has an agreement where if you don't have a lease termination fee, then the tenant is responsible for rent until you have re-rented the unit, which does mean you have to be able to prove you took active steps to relist and re-rent the unit. So I would pursue for those things if the tenant had caused enough problems. Michelle, course call today with the link. Thank you. Much appreciated. Lumberjack landlord, how many rentals? The answer is minus 37. Then you are really lazy. Yes. Yes. I haven't minused any yet, but that is on the list someday. Native to Earth, can't wait to retire. I can't wait to get you here. I want to see what you do next. And thank you for the question. That was a great question. I hope the answer was helpful. Lumberjack landlord, it's pretty fun, won't lie. Yeah, I think I spent the first couple of months trying to tell people I can't put into words what it's like to retire, because the only way I can relate to this is if there's any veterans here, anybody who's in the military, there's only one thing you can't go to your chain of command for. You can usually go and say, what's it like to go to a combat zone? What's it like to go to a divorce or have 7, Gunny? Anything else like that. You can usually go to your chain of command. You cannot go to your chain of command. You cannot go to your therapist. You cannot go to your employer. You cannot go to most of your friends. In the military, you can't say, what's it like to get out? Your chain of command doesn't know. And if they got out and they got back in and now they're in your chain of command, they failed at getting out. They're not out. So if you're talking to your employer and your coworkers, they're still working. They don't know what it's like to get out. So find those people that have retired, that have gone out, like Matt, the lumberjack landlord, and say, what is it like to start that summer vacation that has no end? That weekend that doesn't have a Monday forever. Jason, 6,000 a month, every month to retire. Cool. I like as a passive amount of cash flow every month coming in that you don't have to sell your life for 1 hour at a time. And if you run a business and you have to check the books and you're talking to the manager that you put in place to run the day to day, I still call that retired. You're not going to an office, you don't have a schedule. If you have the 4% rule with stocks, I mean, other than staring at those charts all the time and wondering if you're going to make it, this is not a bad idea. I really think so. If you invest in stocks, I make jokes often, but there's a method called the bucket method where you can actually literally plan for things like recession, plan like what's that? There's a term like you choose to retire at the ultimate worst time, and then the bad thing happens to the stock market. So Joe Kuhn here on YouTube has a strategy called the bucket method, and it's probably from someone else, but he explains it really well. So if you're going to invest in stocks and you want that sleep well at night account, right? That way that you don't care if the recession's hitting or if it's a bear or a bull market or anything like that. Do that. Kind of like when it comes to real estate, people say, well, I just want this much money coming in, right? So for me, I spend around 4,000 a month. I'm trying to increase that. I've got a couple of things like reverse budgets where I need to spend a certain amount on food every month. I want a certain type of vehicle. I want to travel a certain amount because I didn't retire to be frugal. I was frugal to retire, but I didn't retire to be frugal. And I go, I should probably make a video on this once I clarify this thought. So thanks for being here while I figure out how this is articulable. If it takes me about 4,000 a month to live kind of the lifestyle that I want, and I get a multiplier of that of 4. So once my cash flow passed 16,000, I was like, oh, it's kind of stupid to go to work. I got more money coming in than I can spend. That's the part I talk about with math. But here's the reality on retiring. I'm 100% in real estate. I don't own any stocks. I don't own any crypto. I have a couple ounces of gold because, zombie apocalypse. I recommend getting 10th ounces right? Don't go down the street and ask for a tenth. It's different. A 10th ounce looks like a dime, easier to transact with when you're going for food and ammo when the zombie apocalypse comes. But I don't have any other form of making money other than real estate, right? So if I just had that 16,000 and now it's broken to 20, but every month money coming in that I don't have to sell my life for, I wouldn't retire without these other criteria. I diversified to protect my wealth in several specific ways. One, I invested in real estate that helps limit tenant turnover, right? It's got all these physical aspects. Most of my properties, all but one, are side by side. I don't have over under as a majority of my properties because you have noise complaints. And the one that isn't over and under because it has a 280-degree water view all the way around on a peninsula. So it can be a justifiable reason there too. But I have washer dryer hookups in all units. All of my units are at least 2 bedrooms or more. Most have a garage, right? These are things that help limit tenant turnover. Then my properties are more than 10 miles apart, close to several different economic drivers like a base, port, college, hospital, Boeing, Amazon, or a source of tenants in case something closes down or goes away. Then I still have tenants and options to get other tenants. And if one of the areas completely gets shut down, 2 or 3 things go away, one of my properties is impacted. Then I diversified my tenant base, right? I have about 1/3 working, I'm retired, 1/3 military, and 1/3 Section 8. So a prolonged government shutdown, another pandemic, or a stock market crash doesn't impact my entire portfolio. So yes, it was a cash flow amount coming in, right? 4 times my cash flow that I wanted for me to retire, but I also had protected my wealth. And now we have Mike Newton. Look at that. I could say your actual name.
Going on. Yeah, I know, right? My mom did not name me
Mike here on
millennial.
YouTube. You should check him out.
Yeah. Yeah.
We had a great time presenting this last weekend. If you get a chance, I know a lot of time, but the people here generally check out the longer content. It was about an hour of us presenting on stage together. I think it went really well. I've had a lot of positive feedback from it. I think, like when Zuber presented, there was a lot of people taking notes, which is always a good thing to see.
Mm.
So anything you'd like to start and share with tonight before we just jump into the comments?
Well, to your point about we did live stream our presentation. So if anybody here hasn't seen that, or if you catch this on the after watch in Futureland, we covered more topics in that presentation we've done at any other time. I specifically covered how to squatter proof your properties so that you won't get taken advantage of. So we covered that, and it may be worth it for your time to go back and watch that if you're catching this in Futureland. And then on my channel, Dion recorded me. They asked me to do a VIP presentation on creative financing and virtual networking and private money. So I did like a 30 to 45-minute talk on that on a separate day, and I'm going to upload that on my channel and shared some things that I haven't shared before. So, but it was a great event. Honestly, the key takeaways, as always, is that the most important thing about going to these types of events is that you just network with other people. The speeches are great. It's great to learn from people, but honestly, you can get a lot of that information for free right here on YouTube. It's all the conversations that you have before, during the lunch breaks, afterwards, at the meetup in the evening. That is why it's so important to attend those types of events, because you just meet a lot of people. And there's so many people who are on the same path as you, with the same goals as you, who might be investing in the same markets as you. And one of the things that I've noticed is that a lot of people with money that they want to lend attend these events. And so many people ask me, Mike, how do I find private money? And I always say, well, you've got to go network and you need to attend these events. I had a lot of people come up to me and say, we want to lend you money. We want to do deals with you. We want you to take that strategy you told us about and do that for us. And it's to the point where I already have so much private money lined up, I have to find more deals to make it happen. But that's a good problem to have. More money than I have deals to do is a problem most investors don't have. So I'm lucky there. So please attend these events, guys.
And we had a good turnout last night for the Tacoma FI meetup.
Hater.
Lumberjack landlord. Did you see what he says there?
I see.
Good to see you. Did you lose weight or did you accidentally take my shirt?
Okay, look. All right, I'm a healthy 200 pounds, the same 200 pounds I've been for a while now. Don't hate. First, he's going to insult my weight. You called me a twink 10 minutes ago. This is not a good day for me.
Well, someone called me a bear. I mean, so, you know. At least I
Fair
didn't say
enough.
yours. But anyway, last night was actually kind of funny. Speaking of weight, I sit down next to your friend you had come from the gym, and he's a trainer. And I'm like,
Hmm.
he's gets a salad before he goes out to dinner, and I have pie and ice cream. And I'm like, yep, you're at the wrong table.
That guy's jacked.
Yeah, he is definitely. He must work with bees or something. He's all swolled up. So, Jada has a question here. Hi, Dad. Howdy. I mean, Dion. Since insurance is going up everywhere, is Florida still risky since the same thing is happening everywhere with higher insurance? So the risk in Florida with insurance to me was never that insurance companies weren't insuring it, because insurance can go up at any point in time. And yes, that impacts rents, it impacts your NOI if you're doing commercial. It can impact your cash flow for a bit. But area average rents set rents, and when insurance goes up, everybody's rents will go up in the next couple of years. I have never seen an insurance problem with insurances going up be the issue. The problem with the Florida insurance was you have to get a quote on the property before you close, before you're out of your inspection period, because what if it's in a flood zone and your insurance can change by 1,000 to 8,000? This was before they were even canceling. Or what if your building isn't elevated to a certain level? Your insurance could be significantly different. So in my area, I basically knew for 8 years of investing, a duplex was going to cost me $600 or $700 a year. My fourplex was 1,000. My triplex was, I think it was 13. It was the most expensive one, and my single family house was like $350. Like I just knew I can go look at duplexes, and it was going to be another $700 or $800. Well, now a duplex is probably closer to 2,000. Right? It's got over 100% increase, and I can factor that in. So I can just run the numbers going, here's the new estimated value of what insurance is going to be. In Florida, it's still case by case. So it's not that Florida was more risky because of what's going on with insurance now. It's that it's always been risky, and there's another step that you add to your due diligence. Jared, howdy. Looking forward to having an interview set up tomorrow with Jared. Jared, be careful what you say in the comments, because you should be as high as a kite right now.
Did you send him something good?
Yeah, no. I think he went to the dentist. Jada says, what does outlier mean? So there's several different versions. I'm not sure if it relates to something that I missed, but my problem with using the median or the average for any statistic, right? The average income is, well, if you take everybody in the US and then you factor in Warren Buffett, Elon Musk, Bill Gates, and you get net worth or whatever their stock sales are for that year, do you have any useful data when you go the median income or the net average net worth or whatever it is? So I like to use the mode. What is the most common home price? What is the most common current interest rate? What is the most common yield in an area, to take out the outliers? So if you look at 100 people, one person is absolutely doesn't even qualify for social programs and has zero income, and then most people are in the middle, and then this one or two super wealthy people. Your average and median can be pretty far from each other. But when you look at the mode, what is the most common income in an area? I think you're more likely to be able to go, okay, that data matters to me. So an outlier is somebody far outside the bell curve of your, what was the term? Your, not Christo, the test that people do with stocks, Monte Carlo test, because I do the Monte Cristo test. Rich, do you put any type of anti-slip in your tubs or showers for liability? Most of them have a rough edge. I don't put anything in specifically for that. No. I remember a million years ago, people used to put those rubber mats in there, but those seem to be just as dangerous. Do you do anything in your tubs, Mike, to help prevent slip?
No, they just are what they are. And when I get new tub surrounds, because I've done a number of bathroom remodels, we get a tub surround, just stock however it comes.
On exterior stairs, I will put down, Home Depot and Lowe's have, it's like a strip. It looks like roofing paper with a yellow line on it. Put it in, it'll glue down, but I usually put staples too to stop slip on stairs outside. Inside, I tend to do LVP flooring everywhere, LVT sometimes, except for stairs. On stairs, I will actually put carpet. It's the only place in the house I like to have carpet. Lumberjack landlord, it means the states with massive increases on insurance are targeted specifically. Okay. Lumberjack, coastal states, states with hurricanes and tornadoes, my stuff in New Hampshire went up, but it wasn't like New Orleans, which I saw someone double. Yeah, I've had a couple here, Matt, that went from 1,300 to 3,500. And people are like, oh, it's such a huge increase. I'm like, yeah, it's $300 or $400 a month. The mortgage will go up, but it's on a triplex, and two of the units went up $400, and one of the units went up $995. So yes, insurance can go up, but so do rents. Thank you, Jared. The audio was terrible there for a minute. Hated missing last week's boot camp, but helped my son finish his Eagle Scout award. Awesome.
It's worthwhile reason to miss.
Yes. Good. We got the sound a little better. Very nice to see you in here. I was out for a few weeks in Arizona, down there with your things that we're going to talk about tomorrow. Native to Earth. Investing in Hawaii is difficult. I only need $4,000 a month to retire, and I am trying to build a plan now that I'm house hacking, but I'm not in a cash flow state. You and Mike are inspirations. Mike is I think killing it for somebody who's in an area where it's really hard to find cash flow. I think Native to Earth, you're doing the right thing with the house hack, right? The more high cost of living the area that you live in, the more important house hacking is. I just don't think you should make this blunder that Mike is making.
Which is what?
How many years have you been house hacking the same duplex in an area where you could have acquired at least 2 or 3 more?
Okay. Yeah.
Not picking on you. I'm just saying.
2018. It's 2018.
2018. Okay.
And again, if I had met you earlier, I probably would have done another house hack at an earlier point in time, but I didn't. By the time I did meet you, I had such a good system going with Gary, Indiana, that it's kind of hard to justify it if I do get another house hack, I got to uproot my child who's already had a very unstable life given his life. And the one thing that's consistent is at least we've lived here. Like you, Dion, I moved on average every 6 months of my childhood. And so having him have the same neighbors, the same friends, the same school does present a certain amount of value.
There's no one right way. And I'll say often, like, one of the biggest mistakes I've made, blunders that I've done, is I paid off a mortgage on a rental. I don't regret it. I don't think you will regret not house hacking. You'll be like, no, I had a better use of putting the money to work in Gary, Indiana. But if somebody looks at, should I have paid off a rental or should I have bought in a fourplex, right? Matt would have said, you should have bought a fourplex at that point in time. I don't know what you were thinking, right? So blunders are a part of this. We share our blunders so that less people make them. Because you know what experience is, right?
Tell me.
It is when you recognize the mistakes that you're making again. That's experience.
I like it. Yeah.
Native to Earth, I did 13% down with a conventional and had 803 credit score. I was planning on refinancing to build a house, another piece of land I own, but the interest rates went up, so I'm considering buying cash flow. Yeah, interest rates changing impacts the strategy that you do.
In a big way, in a huge way, which is why I continue to try to tell people, if you're not doing everything right now to learn all you can about creative financing, seller financing, and value add deals, you're seriously missing the opportunity that 2024 and 2025 are presenting you with. Most people think, oh, maybe I'll just wait till interest rates come back down. If they do come back down, they're only going to come back down as a result of major pain in the market. And with that major pain will come a whole host of new problems or old problems that we're revisiting. So what you need to do is figure out how to be successful in any market at any time. And then no matter what's going on, you know which tools to go to solve the problem.
Ernesto, howdy. I have a 4-unit property that's returning 1.35% of sale a month. I have to understand what that means. $310,000 purchase and $4,300 a month net. It's gaining equity, but zero cash flow in year 1 with room to grow. What do you think? 4,300 gross, not net. Sorry. Okay.
If there's no cash flow, how are you getting a return of 1.3%? Are you just accounting for appreciation?
I think it's a turn of phrase. It's zero cash flow. I'm getting like 1%. I'd rather have 10. Like, I think that's how I'm going to interpret that. 1.3, or somehow it was, yeah, I don't understand the math there. So if it's gross 4,300, I would want to know what your mortgage, your pie tie is, including setting aside for expenses, maintenance, vacancy, that kind of stuff. What's average in your area? What are other things doing? Where are your rents compared to area average rents? Have you stabilized the unit? I talk every now and then. I've got a couple of videos on, people ask me, how do you get so much cash flow? And people don't believe me, but I say it's because I've never done a cash out refinance, taken out a HELOC, sold for 1031. I've never touched the equity. So over time, the cash flow continues to go up. I mean, I'm getting a bit over $1,000 a unit in cash flow. It didn't start that way. Like, file that away. The first couple of years, and I've had a couple in the beginning where I was like, it's possible, it's positive, right? It's not a bad deal, but 3 years later, now it's a phenomenal deal. So how long have you had it? Have you stabilized it? How does it compare to the area? And what can you do to increase rents, decrease expenses? Yeah, there's a lot going on there. I would probably need, if you can email me, I'll put my email in the chat. You can send me for more details on that, because the returning 1.35% of sale a month my brain doesn't understand that. But I want to help. Current rents are basically at fair market rent for our area if rural New Hampshire. That it would be definitely check with Matt the Lumberjack landlord on things you can do there. And it's his backyard. If you're at area average and it's not returning, yeah, watch interest rates, see if it's possible to refinance if they come down. Shop around for, so I have a video about a month ago, 17 ways to make more money without raising rents. There's a ton of things you can do. One of them was shop for better insurance rates, offer to raise your deductible on your insurance to lower the premium. I don't remember all 17, but they're in that video. How to make more money as a landlord without raising rents. That's the video I think you should check out to see if there's things there that can impact what you're doing. Jared, I missed you guys. Bought 2 houses at the same time and had to rock and roll the last 2 weeks. That
Fair
sounds busy.
enough.
New Townie. Oh, cap rate is 10.25. What am I missing here?
They left a few comments.
Okay, I must have missed it.
Oh, that's the same guy who said I have a 4-unit property returning 135 of sale a month. So that's all that.
I'm seeing different names.
Oh, I'm seeing Newtown said all of that.
Okay.
He
All
says
right,
cap
so
rate's 10.25 on that same comment.
How do okay. I don't want to sound attacky. I want to sound clarifying. In no way whatsoever in any of the universes of the multiverse does cap rate apply to residential 4 units or less. It's not a metric that applies to it. I don't actually I wouldn't even want to use it if I was looking at 10 or 20 units, but people do. What you're looking for, because you're not looking at NOI, net operating income. That's commercial. That's 5 units or more because it's a different loan structure. What you're looking for is cash on cash return, right? You have, and here's the math equation for you. Annual profit divided by cost to acquire. So how much did it cost you to get the place? Down payment, closing costs, money for immediate repairs, all of that, cost to acquire. Your annual profit is, you said, I think it's 4,300 gross coming in. What's your expense going out? What are you setting aside for future repairs and maintenance? What's left? If there's anything left, that's your positive cash flow. Every month times 12 is your annual profit. Divide that by your cost to acquire. That will give you a percentage. You run a lot of deals in your area until you figure out what the area average yield is. And then you compare yours to that. Cap rate doesn't tell us anything with residential. What if you're in New Hampshire, but what if somebody's talking about in Washington where insurance is $2,000 to $4,000 a year, or if they're in New Jersey where it's $16,000 to $20,000 a year? What if there is an HOA? What if there's no HOA? Right? There's all of these different things that cap rate doesn't tell us anything about. Lost my place in the chat. I'm going to miss a bunch of stuff. Angel R. Howdy. I've got tenants with a 1-year lease and 2+ approved pets. Every visit the place stinks. I'm worried about the long-term impact. Should I overlook this or reconsider year leases? So a month-to-month lease gives you no more power to get rid of a tenant than a year-long lease in almost every market I've ever heard of. You have to have a justifiable reason to get the person. If there is a lease violation on a month-to-month or a year-long, you have the same option to get them out. If you go month-to-month leases, you lose a lot of ability to get loans. A lot of lenders are going to want you to show that you have the majority of your leases have more than 3 months remaining. And so if you have month-to-month leases, you can't do that. Is the smell impacting neighbors that are your problem, right? If you have a duplex and the smell in one unit is affecting the other, I would make sure that somehow that is covered in the lease. If not, there's not that much you can do. You can find other reasons to take somebody out and rehab the unit. If they have pets and it already smells, you're going to have the same problem whether the pets are there for a year or 20 years, right? The process to eliminate pet smells is the same. You remove the screens, you remove the blinds, you remove the flooring, you kills paint everything. You sacrifice a goat. You get an ozone machine. You run it 2 to 3 days, and then you smell to see if it needs it again for another 2 to 3 days. Then you put in new, I would say LVP flooring, depending on where you are. I think carpet works in some areas. I don't like it. I have it in one rental, but I don't want it in there. Paint new screens, new blinds to get rid of the smell. That's exactly the same 1 year later or 20 years later. So it's not, unless it's impacting the tenant turnover on the unit next door that belongs to you. I say this to tenants all the time, and I don't know if I've said this in a video before. When a tenant asks you for something or a tenant does something that you don't like, they live there, not you, right? So I've talked to owners and they say, well, I don't want a person in my house that doesn't keep the inside clean. I'm like, yeah, if it causes a rodent infestation, sure. But if you go there and it's messy, what do you care? You don't live there. They live there. So that's my opinion. Chadwick, howdy, thanks for that. I need to native to earth. I need to accept the fact that house hack strategy doesn't work in Hawaii. When I only make 50,000 as a mailman, I may have to do what Mike does. Investing at a distance, I think so. I think there are versions of house hacking you could do with lower income, right? Like having roommates. What can you do to reduce your housing costs? The house hacking we usually talk about, it's the best interest rate, it's the lowest down payment, it's blah, blah, blah. But it's also reducing or eliminating your housing expense. What are you willing to do that? The more expensive the area you live in, the more impactful house hacking can be.
There is obviously an upper limit, because if you make $50,000 a year, and Hawaii is one of the most expensive housing markets that there is, the advice I would give someone in California or Seattle would be draw those circles and move out and make a sacrifice. The problem, of course, is you draw that circle on the island of Hawaii, at some point you end up in the middle of the Pacific Ocean, and it's really hard to build your house on the sand. Imagine how hard it is to build it on the water. So I can understand where you may quite literally not be able to move any further out. Now, that being said, I'm sure there is still some type of opportunity, if you're willing to sacrifice, to find a live-in flip, a live-in fixer-upper, and a crappy part of it. There's probably something, but it may require such an extraordinary sacrifice that it just isn't worth it, and it is better to get started somewhere else at a distance. I know Marco Shiro lives in Hawaii, Mikey Buzztune lives in Hawaii, and they both invest in Pennsylvania because it just made more sense for them to do that there from literally thousands of miles away. So I won't pretend to know everything about your situation because I'm pretty ignorant to it. But if there is a way for you to make it work, yeah, ultimately house hacking is super powerful, and even more powerful if you live in a high cost of living area. But if you just really can't do it, there are other options for you.
There are other options. So the roommate thing I would definitely consider, and that kind, I mean, a lot of people are willing to have roommates when they're renting. They don't want to do it when they're owning. But if you're in an area where you can't own because you're making 50,000 living in a very expensive state, here is something that native to earth might not want to hear. And this irritates a lot of people. This actually made me have some awesome arguments on Facebook this morning, which are always very productive. Housing is more affordable now than at almost any point in history. In 3 or 4 years, people are going to be saying, Do you remember 2024? Because that's what year it is, Mike. It's
Mhm.
2024.
I got you
They're
there.
going to say, do you remember when you could put 5% down on a triplex or a fourplex? Do you remember when lenders would lend to somebody with under an 800 credit score? Oh my God. Do you remember when interest rates were below 15%? That was amazing. People are going to be saying weird stuff that we don't know 5 to 10 years from now. Housing is unaffordable where people want to live, right? Gary, Indiana had a BOGO deal going a couple of years ago. If a contractor bought a house, the city gave them a second one for free because they had 13,000 vacant units that they were trying to revitalize the city with. Ain't nobody wanted to live there. That was the problem. Detroit had houses you can get for $1 tax returns. You give $1 to the city, you own the house. That's very affordable. But when manufacturing had moved away, and I think it was insurance companies or somebody else had moved in, before that happened, before it had kind of started to go back on the uptrend, no one wanted to live there. I don't know why people live where Matt does. It's like their wagon broke down in New Hampshire, so they said, let's make a city here. Oh, you can't live 4 months out of the year here unless you're locked in a building with heat. Or Matt's truck that didn't have heat.
Uh,
There are places, you can go to Washington State or California. People say, oh, I live in California. It's too expensive here. My brother lives in Fraser Park. My niece bought a house for $200,000, right? That's affordable. $200,000 is affordable for a house for most people's income. Yes, there are people that make less than that. What's keeping you limited in a $50,000 a year job in Hawaii? What jobs can pay more than that? And what is keeping you in Hawaii?
how much do you want to sacrifice?
It sucks, right? The answer is here's how it works in your situation and the easiest way to do it. Well, sometimes the easiest way is to do some hard things that you don't want to do. Like move from your house into an apartment and rent the house out. Like, most people I talk to say, wow, my family would never do that. My kids were excited. You don't know what your family would do until you run it by them. I see a couple of, so first I see Brandon, you joined the members only. There will be members only meetings this month for May. They're going to be on the weekends. Again, probably not Mother's Day weekend, but we're going to be doing 2 of those where, Brandon, it says you joined, but not today. I think I've seen you in there before, but we jump on Zoom and we look at deals. We literally open up an email from an agent and we go through stream of consciousness. What would we look at? We run the numbers. Everybody focuses on numbers, but then we do physical aspects of the property, the area, all of the things that we would do. And it takes 30 to 50 minutes to look at a deal and like talk about it. To actually do that takes about a minute, 30 seconds to a minute to do everything that we're going to talk about. And that's how detailed we go on that. So hope to see you there. And then BuzzTune, I see that you did a super chat. I appreciate that. I don't see a sticker or a question. So let me know if I missed something, Mike, from BuzzTune and Dividend Dave. Sacrifice the goat for money. I get it. That's how you get smells out of houses. I haven't had to deal with pet smell. I have had to deal with smoker smell on buying a property and develop the same criteria to get rid of smell.
BuzzTune left a comment. He said he did that super chat and then he said, hey to Native, the other commenter from Hawaii. He goes, on Oahu, along with financial firefighter, always down to talk to another investor and share experiences. So he is saying you should reach out to him. So the easiest way is probably to go to the Financial Firefighters YouTube channel and reach out to Marco Shiro if you're interested in meeting up with other Hawaii investors.
Thank you, Mikey. That's awesome. Maybe you guys get a local group going. If there's much of Hawaii that's considered local, right? Because you got water between certain places. Howdy, Keith. Keith, if you can get a copy of a home inspection report, it can be your checklist to inspect a future purchase of repairs and bargaining chip on older homes. So it sounds like you're saying if you're looking at a deal and you can get a copy of a home inspection report, yes. What I have done every time is make offers on properties that I've looked at online but never gone and seen in person. And then once it's under contract, get a home inspection. And yes, the home inspection does 2 things. For me, it gives me a to-do list after closing, right? They'll usually put it in priority. Red stuff needs to be done. It's safety sensitive. And then it fades to less important as it goes deeper. But it also gives you the strongest negotiating tool you have, depending on the market. If you're in a strong seller's market where they had 15 offers over asking, waiving contingencies, you're not going to be able to negotiate too much, but you can use it, and it never hurts to ask. And don't split the difference. Right? If you think $5,000 or $10,000 off the price would be good, don't ask for 5 or 10, ask for 20. So that when they counter, you're back to where you thought was good. Carlos took back a message to make me lose sleep forever and ever and wonder what was said. I'm happy to give you many thumbs up. Thank you, Freedom. It's appreciated. Robert Finelli to Native to Earth. You might not want to listen to Dion, especially when I have the wrong mic on. If that next great deal didn't come until 2027, I would probably be too old to meet my financial freedom goals. Building momentum early is key. But that doesn't mean go buy anything. If you didn't find it, like I did say, if you don't find it within 6 months to a year, you might look at your market or your strategy and adjust like I did last year. I made 2 adjustments. One is I expanded out to those markets. I started watching days on market instead of trying to be fast. And if I didn't find something within a set given time, I was going to start investing with Mike and Gary. Angel R. Dion, do you let your tenants handle lawn care? I don't let, I make. 8 feet rule. Anything under 8 feet is tenant's responsibility. It's in the lease. And this is at all of my properties except for 2. My fourplex, the yards aren't clearly delineated. They're not fenced off. So I have a service for that. And then where I live, I have a service because I'm lazy. And since I have a service here, the tenants here don't have to worry about it. When I house hacked my duplex, the tenants were responsible for their clearly delineated section of yard. But I don't have that here because it's an up-down. So yes, it's just in the lease that they're responsible for it. They can hire a service. They can do it themselves. I have 2 places, one duplex where the couple on one side hires the people on the other to do it both sides. So they work that out between themselves. And then I have a triplex where it's very similar. The one person has somebody do their yard too. Could be what happens in your area. So check the other listings of rentals and see what's normal, right? Like, do you supply a dishwasher? In Washington, yes. In Indiana, no. Freedom works, not retirement, but work optional. Exactly. There's a lot of people who want, the word retire stops them in their tracks. Like, I don't want to do that. So we don't pursue financial freedom. Financial freedom doesn't mean you have to retire. It means you can. Or take a job you love and not worry about how much you make. Or take risks with your job to grow with the company that you might not want to if you absolutely needed the money. Robert Finelli, just no alligators if average is 5% and great is 7%, and you can find just do 5% so you can reset the 1 year clock of the 5% down. If you wait 6 months for 7%, that's 6 months of wasted reset time. I agree with Robert on that one. I think in the beginning, first 5 to 8 years, I pursued base hits. I was okay with a good deal. You'll hear a lot of us talk once we've reached financial freedom and retired. We talk about only doing great deals because we don't have to do the other ones. But base hits, if you don't have base hits, you don't get RBIs. And so for me, I agree with you, Robert. Yes, no alligators though. Start with that as a great way to start it. Don't buy a bad deal. Doesn't have to be a home run though. PE turned RE. Howdy, Curtis. Good to see you. I get a Costco sample of retirement during every school break, but it still has a timer on it. Let's say somebody took a year sabbatical, like 12-month sabbatical. It still has a timer. I'm trying to think if this is opposite enough to make sense. If somebody gets sentenced to 4 years in prison and you go to prison, you're in there and you're thinking, okay, this sucks. I've got 4 years. What can I do to be employable when I get out? Maybe I can, some prisons have like a furniture warehouse where you can build furniture. So you get out and you have 4 years of work history and you're in there and you're counting down the days versus you get a life sentence. You were guilty, whatever it was justifiable, right? Somebody did something to a kid and you did the right thing and ended up going to jail for it. But now you have a life sentence forever. You will never see freedom again. You learn how to live in prison. You learn how to read, entertain yourself, do whatever, because that is forever. That's the difference of, Curtis, getting a summer vacation. No matter how long it is, 3 months, 3 years, if you have a timer on when you got to go back to work, the world is a different place to where Zuber, Matt, me, where we went and said, I'm never working again. It is a life sentence of freedom. That's where I want to get you. I see you. Super chat popped in. Old guy REI. Howdy, Frank. Good to see you here. I'm on my own island in Santa Cruz, California. If anybody wants to talk REI, there you go. You guys do a Wednesday Zoom call. So if you know Frank, reach out to him. Get in on that. Jared, Dion, do you have some sort of no smoking entry in your leases, or is that not a concern with your properties? It is absolutely a concern. No smoking of cigarettes, because cigarettes leave a smell that is really hard to get out. I don't have a problem with other types of smoking, like things that are legal, marijuana, the smell goes away. I've never had a problem with that. I know some tenants that smoked it every day that they were there for 3 or 4 years, and I didn't even have to change anything. No ozone machine, no nothing. It's a very different experience. But yeah, in the lease, no smoking. In the leases where I live, no smoking on the property, not just in the building. And so this is a grown-up that agrees to this. So get it in writing. Consent is golden. The king of Gary is here. This is when you jumped in. Sequence of returns risk. Thank you, Wombat Strike. It was exactly what I was looking for. When you retire into a downturn, although you probably won't see this for another 20 plus minutes. It was way longer than that. Sorry if you were looking for the term. Thank you for putting it there, though. I love it. MK, love the Action Summit. I think the Action Summit was great. Native to Earth, new subscriber here. I'm like half Dion, half Mike because I'm house hacking in my new area, but interested in properties far away. I need to network. Glad I tuned in. So I don't think anybody should copy everything I've done. I don't think anybody should copy everything Mike's done, or Zuber or Matt, right? I would take the content in from people that have done this and then figure out which part of what we're doing also fits you. And then you put it together into your own thing. Brian, howdy, Futureland. Exactly. My chat moved. I see Ernie is going to pay that for the first 5 years. I must have missed something else. Here we go. Sorry, Dion, my earlier comments were a mess. I was trying to say I paid $310,000 for a 4-unit that is grossing $4,300. I took a $50,000 retirement loan for the $77,000 down payment. So all the cash is going to pay that for the first 5 years. In year 1, cash is negative and equity is about $10,000. In 5 years, it should be netting $22,000 cash plus equity. This assumes 5% annual increase on rent and expenses. This does not account for savings for unplanned maintenance. This is my first investment property, and I don't really have anyone else to ask, does this sound solid or is it too risky? I mean, it's too late now, but I'm getting those post-purchase jitters. So Ernie, when we're starting out, it's actually one of the reasons why I say things like, I wouldn't empty my retirement accounts out and buy a property. I wouldn't do the BRRRR method. I wouldn't do like all of these things in the first few, because we tend to make our biggest mistakes on the first couple of properties. You have done this. The exit would cost you more usually than staying in it. So when you stay in it, I would go on my channel and look through for a live of how to make more money without raising rents. Then I would tweak my brain and I would not think of rents going up, right? They have historically gone up every year since we started tracking the data in 1940, but don't count on it. I like to invest planning on rents going down, even though we've never seen that, right? The Class A went down in 2009, right? So super high-end luxury places went down, but C and B properties where I like to invest, I would prefer C for a long list of reasons, have never gone down. In 2009 and 10, they actually went up because there was more demand because all those people that went through foreclosures became renters. It's not possible to say if it was a good or a bad deal. If it's cash flow negative, I'd get to work on that and figure out what you can do. So do things like call your insurance company, raise your deductible, build a good reserves because things going to happen. And if you're not building it from cash flow on that property, it's your job to build that. I don't know that I would run out and add another property until you stabilize this and get that cash flow positive. It's a learning experience. I think it's good that you're thinking in years, right? Once the loan is paid back to your retirement in 5 years, here's what happens. I think that's a good way to look at it. I don't know that it's a good way to plan to do your next purchase. It's not how I would have started. But the idea is you are here now. You have people like Matt and Zuber and Mike and me that have done this, that are sharing the information. You can ask questions. You can jump into these lives. You can email us. Most of us share our information to answer questions, to figure out how to be ready for the next one. Because while this might not be the deal that you would have gone for, you have it, so you can't change that now. It's how do I improve that one? But how do you get better at finding the right deal for the next one? That's what I'd be focusing on.
Dion, you skipped a few questions.
Okay, good. Can you go grab
Yeah,
a
if you want me to read it off. Carlos
Yes,
Vasquez says, I'm in Florida, where you have two camps of thought, those who say the sky is about to fall and those who believe that once interest rates fall, we'll go back to bidding wars. I subscribe to the latter. What say you?
That's a great question. Thank you for catching that, because I wouldn't have wanted to have missed that. I see it now. So I think there's two camps, Carlos. One is about 97% of the people, and one is about 3%. 97% watch and follow the crash bros. So if Mike or I make a video on how to get started in real estate or how to buy your next rental, we get 1,000 to 5,000 views. If what's retarded inventor, what is his name?
Reventure Consulting.
Reventure. Okay. He makes a video on here's the 5 years in a row, 364th reason every 2 days. Here's why the crash is right around the corner. 40% within 2 months, guaranteed. 300,000 views in 2 days. Right. So yeah, you're in two camps. You're in the 3%. I'm in the 3% for a couple of reasons. And I usually have these pictures queued up. I don't today. I can get them really quick. But if interest rates come down, we unleash demand. Prices will skyrocket, period.
Yeah.
So that's
and
not going
with it inflation.
And with it inflation, which if you own the assets is amazing.
Right.
Thank you, inflation, for tripling my net worth in the last 3 years.
In other words, you will go from being a single-digit millionaire to double-digit millionaire at the next time interest rates come down. So you have that to look forward to.
Exactly. And a lot of people think high prices means crash or means bubble, and that's not what caused the 2008 crash or bubble. In 2008, we had a few things we don't have now. One, people like Frank Contreras and me, old guy REI, caused the housing crash by buying properties, being over 100% levered, having an adjustable rate, right? We had 51% of mortgages in 2007 were adjustable rate mortgages. We had ninja loans. You can go into a bank and just say, I make $400,000 a year, lend me a bunch of money, and they would. No income, no job, no assets, no verification. You could wrap 105% of the loan so you can put your closing costs into the loan, start out negative equity, and just refinance in 2 years when all the prices come down or interest rates come down, which didn't happen. So we don't have any of that now. Lending right now is very strict, hard to get the loan. They go forensic on you. We had all the way down to 3% adjustable rate loans there for a while. We got up to 13. Now we're back down to 8. So we don't have a big amount of people with adjustable rate loans. We've got, because of the 2008 housing crash, we were building in the 70s, 25 million, in the 80s, 25 million, in the 90s, over 26 million, and then 27 million. And all of a sudden, we didn't even make 7 million in a decade homes. The shortage is massive. So when you make a YouTube channel, here's a philosophy I want you to adopt if you're making a channel, because several of us are, and we're encouraging that. And I can't wait to hear people share their stories. If you want to help yourself, if you want to just grow a channel, tell people what they want to hear. And if you want to help people, you tell them the truth. So if somebody's been making videos for over 3 years, where every 2 days they have the brand new reason why there's a 40% crash 2 months away. And let me tell you, here's a fact. Facts don't care about your feelings. The largest drop in real estate in the history of our country in the United States in a 1 year period was 8.9%. So the mental midgetry that happens when somebody says a 40% crash is 2 months away and they still get hundreds of thousands of views, tells me which camp I'm in. And so, Mike, anything you want to add to that? Because I tried not to rant too much.
Yeah, I mean, honestly, the Crash Bros are just sellouts. They really are. They're complete and total sellouts. If you want to make a bunch of money on social media, going viral is actually pretty easy. You just have to find an audience to pander to or say something that is outrageous or both. A lot of people don't know this. I went extremely viral on TikTok a number of years ago. Nothing related to real estate. I made jokes about being a cop and a police officer, but I also made jokes that kind of pandered to women. That wasn't my intention, but I just made some jokes about, how women should have higher standards. Well, by the tens of thousands, women were flocking to the comments to praise me for finally a man saying what needs to be said. Well, I just threw something out there as a casual offhand comment that I didn't mean. I was like, well, I can't lean into this because I don't actually fundamentally believe that it was a joke was what I was saying, but it was taken very seriously. And so you can say things that you don't believe and become hyper successful doing so. And it's very tempting because YouTube ad revenue pays exceptionally well, depending on how many views you get. And when these guys are making 60,000 views a video of 3 videos a week, I mean, you're looking at $10,000 or $15,000 a week in income. And all they had to do was convince themselves that I'm not lying. I'm just providing additional perspective about some of the potential harms of the housing market. And then they just lean into that as hard as they can, regardless of what anything else says. They refuse to debate anybody on any of the topics. They'll only go on other Crash Bro channels. And like Dion said, I mean, we're in year 4.5 of Reventure Consulting's channel existing, and prices are still going up. I mean, it's a joke.
Dave says, Mike, aren't you like 6'10"? You're taller than me. No, Mike is like 5'10", and I'm actually 3'32".
Yeah, exactly. I'm 5'10", just Dion's 4'11", and so it looks like I'm tall. It's all camera angles and movie magic, love.
Exactly. The layer says, just lurking over here. Sorry I missed Comify yesterday. We'll be the next one. We'll see you at the next one. The next one should be at Cooper's in Ruston. Ernie, all the cash is going to retirement loan from the down payment. I think that's smart. If you can resist the urge to try to take that cash and do something in your life, get rid of that loan. I like the idea. Angel R. Mike, in your market, what are your best performing assets? The more bedrooms, the bigger unit, the better.
So I have been saying this for a while, that I think the best asset right now today to get is a 2 to 4 unit building. 2 to 4 unit buildings have the potential for the best types of lending. And even though interest rates suck right now, if you do a value add on a 2 to 4 unit building, and then you do a cash out refinance it, whenever interest rates or prices come to some sort of equilibrium that works well for you, you are going to get more bang for your buck in terms of rent. So a single family house rents for slightly more, and a multifamily unit rents for slightly less, but you have multiple units. And so what I have seen as a general trend is that I am paying less for the multi-unit and getting more in rent. Let me explain that one more time. It's not a one-to-one comparison. If I have a single family house that gets $1,000 in rent and I have a duplex that gets $1,800 in rent, I did not have to pay double for the cost of the duplex. I only paid 1.5, but I got 1.8 in terms of rent. And so that seems to track all the way through a triplex and a fourplex. Instead of paying, 3 times the cost for a triplex, I'm paying 2.4 and getting 2.7 times the amount of rent as I would a single family house. And I've seen that hold true in multiple different markets, which is why even here in very expensive Washington, single family houses do not come anywhere near close to cash flowing. House hacking a multifamily property, you might actually be able to get a cash flow positive rental property day one. Very small amount of cash flow positive, but it is still positive.
Freedom Work says, is there still a statue of Lenin in Washington? Yes, there is a 16-foot bronze communist statue in Washington. That's the whole point of joining the Marine Corps and going to another country and unaliving people was so that people can have freedom of speech in the United States. And remember this, a socialist can thrive in a capitalist society. A capitalist cannot live in a socialist society. All-nighter hider. Truck is unloaded. Got to jump in the shower. Get all that fiberglass off you. Nice. Daniel, REI. Howdy. And now everybody is thinking of Ryan in the shower. How can rents be raised on Section 8 tenants? Your expenses don't set rents. What sets rents is area average rents. So if your rents are below area average, you probably can raise your rents on Section 8. Now, I had Section 8 tell me at one point that $1,800 was the most they would pay for a unit, which is now at $3,000. But at $1,800, they said that was the most we can do for the area. So here's how you raise the rent on Section 8. If you are below area average, you have a limit of what you can go up to. So when you rent to non-Section 8, the rent goes as high as the person will agree to, right? A real estate is worth what someone is willing to pay. Section 8 has limits. First, you are going to go to this website, which maybe somebody can put in the chat. And I've got to see if I've got it here. Where did I'll share this and then I'll find fair market rents. So you're going to go to this website. Fair market rents. You can just Google fair market rents. This is what the housing authority will pay per state, per county, and in some places, because there's so much population, per zip code. So fair market rents for 2024. Go to your state. So I'm in Washington. So you're going to find yours. You're going to look up your county. And I'm going to go, we'll say, Thurston County. Next screen. So 2024 rents for 4 bedrooms went from 24 to 3,000. When I originally did this in like 2018, the max was, they told me they would go to 1,800. It was 2,200 on here. And then, so you're gonna take a screenshot of this and you're gonna send it in an email to your Section 8 housing authority, or the nonprofit in your county that runs the housing authority or runs the Section 8 program, and say, here's what your limit is. There's also a variance. If there's a shortage of units in your area, they can go above this by 10%. So they could pay 3,300 here if you really pushed it for a 4-bedroom, right? So how many bedrooms do you have? For a 2-bedroom in Thurston County, they'll pay 1,800. Now, it has to include utilities, so there's some other things you need to learn about it. But if your rent is 1,300, you can raise it to 18, depending on the state that you're in and what your rent control laws are. If you went to the housing authority and you said, I want to raise the rent, and you just go, I'm raising it this amount, you'll probably get denied. But if you send them this, and then you send them comps in the area of similar units, and Section 8 doesn't care about a garage, a pool, a hot tub, extra bonus rooms or anything. They care about bedroom count, period, only. Just how many bedrooms does it have? So that chart held how many bedrooms the property has. So you're going to look up units in the area that have the same number of bedrooms, and you're going to send that to the housing authority. But that's the second step. You have a contract with the housing authority. You have a lease with your tenant. So anytime you're raising the rent on a Section 8 tenant, and this is how I do it, you go to the tenant, and I've used the binder strategy. I show them, here's what fair market rents will pay. Here's what your rent is. Here's what BAH is for military in the area, or here's the comps in the area of the rents that are above that. So I'm going to be going to Section 8 to let them know that there's a rent change. Here's the new lease. You sign the lease with the tenant, and in there is also a little addendum at the bottom says this lease is pending approval by the housing authority. So you have an existing lease with the tenant that has already agreed to the new rent amount. I don't just change the rent, I educate them with the binder strategy. Then you send the email to the housing authority, include the lease that's signed by the tenant that says, here's the amount that they have agreed to. And you send their farm market rents, you send the comps, and if you need to, you can send the verbiage of, if there's a shortage in the area, you can go above the fair market rents if you need to. Usually you don't. And then I've had a lot of success with that. Sounds like a lot, but it's like 4 emails to make hundreds of thousands of dollars more a month. And for Mike, you just hire a property manager that knows what they're doing and they get the rents up.
Yep.
Wealth with Rentals. Howdy, good to see you here. Angel R. My fear with dirty tenants is that it will be me scrubbing those floors. I'm going to let them be and use my reserves to pay for cleaners. Yes. It's not you cleaning it. I purchased a hoarder house. I'm not the one in there sifting through stuff. You
Did
find the
you?
company that I did. Yeah,
I didn't know that.
yeah, I had pictures, and that was before we met, I think, because this was 2018.
Nice.
Duplex, one side tenant is still there, other side was a hoarder house, and the agreement was they would have the hoarder out at closing.
Hmm.
The hoarder was moving away anyway. Found a guy, paid him $400, and his agreement was, but I get to keep anything I find. And it's like,
Oh,
yep, go
that's
for
right.
it.
Yeah.
You're willing to go in there with that stuff? And this was amazing. So when I looked at the pictures, it was a person with like 6 cats. There was no bed in the house because there was so much stuff. The person slept in a Barca lounger chair, but the cats had really nice beds. And I thought, oh, this is gonna be a nightmare. But price is right, area average rents tell me it's gonna be great. They take everything out. The person had placed plastic over hardwood floors, just laid plastic down, everything, and everything was on it. Mint condition once empty.
Nice.
Like the $400 to empty, and then the cleaning crew that went in, they earned their money, right? But the flooring was good. Uh, yeah, you pay to have that stuff done. Sometimes you go do stuff at a property because it's fun. If you own, like if Mike, you set up an Airbnb, and how much time did you commit to saying, I'm going to make this a really cool 90s themed Airbnb? You didn't have to do that, but it's fun. I think. I think it was fun anyways.
It was.
Oculus, I had some luck with an inexpensive ozone machine from Amazon killing smells. There you go. You can rent them too, depending on how much they cost. You might keep one around. Native to Earth, currently I'm renting my house like a duplex, separate entrance, and renting an off-grid cabin, so my housing is covered now. But to retire, I need another 4K. I'm looking into duplexes in the Midwest. Beautiful strategy. I love it. Absolutely. Angel R, thank you guys. For me, it's more about mentally accepting that the unit I put so much effort into renovating is filthy. There is such a thing as over renovating a rental. There is. You renovated the rental to get the rents. You did not renovate the rental to have a nice place for people to keep nice. I have a friend who, one of his first rentals, he's got 30 and he's retired now, but one of his first rentals, he renovated the inside, but then he did the yard himself. He put in a koi pond and a little walk bridge, and it was super landscaped. And within 6 months, it was trashed. And so he's never done that again. And he's talked about it with me several times. He's like, yep, make it clean, safe, and functional. It's probably where I got those words, was from him. So he's a smart guy. But that lesson from him overdoing the yard told me the tenant lives there. I do have some tenants that put a ton of work into the yard and take care of it. I'm like, great, that looks great. Don't do the thing where if the tenant improves the property, you go there as a landlord and you go, this place is really nice. You should pay me more rent now. That's not cool. Laura Semeniago, comfortability versus profitability house hacking. Agreed. Like Curtis. Curtis was house hacking a duplex in a room that wasn't a complete unit, and then moved into his triplex to have so it's quality of life and adding units. And Curtis made a genius move with that. So, hey, native on Oahu, along with financial firefighter, always down to talk. Another investor, share your experience. Awesome. And we went through Ernie's stuff. Thanks, BuzzTune. You'll reach out. Good. Jared, at the ORAT, someone in the audience asked Mike if he used real estate to meet women. Here is a one-liner for Mike. Hey, girl, are you a mortgage? Because you've got my interest. That's a Dividend Dave quality joke right there.
Okay, first of all, somebody came up and said, you guys are all in real estate. Has anybody ever, I think it was Salika, has anybody ever used a real estate line to pick up on chicks? And all three of you turned and looked at me and handed me the mic and put me on the spot immediately, to which I had to try to come up with some line like, hey, girl, can I make a 5% down deposit? Because I'd like to own or occupy some of your assets. Like, what do you like that? Like, I had no time to think of anything.
I've always got one in the can.
Yeah, but you didn't jump up to say it.
No, I had it because I figured you'd shine. Give you your moment. You have to admit, based on our last presentation, you are the comedian.
Correct. Yeah, true. But a lot of those jokes I had going in my head for at least a minute before, leading the speech in a certain direction or something I was going to say. That was just like, here's a question, come up with a pickup line on the spot.
Dividend Dave says, sacrifice that like button. All that harder. Go to the tire shops and tell them I need to retire. What do you think, Dave? There you go. See, like I said, Dave level jokes. I think we'll be wrapping this up here in a minute. So let's make sure that we go through. If there's any questions you want to get to, we get to them. Adam says, if you guys were handed $1 million in cash, how would you deploy that in your current position? How much is it to take out an X nowadays? Mike, I haven't even looked into it in a while. No, I would. What would you
I'd
do
do it
if
for
you're
free
handed $1
for you,
million?
Mike. I'm sorry, what did you say?
We'll do this in two ways. If you're handed $1 million today, your current position, or when you were starting out, what would you do with $1 million?
If I had $1 million right now, I could pay off 100% of all the debt that I have on all projects and all properties and cash flow immediately over my financial freedom number. So if my goal was to get to financial freedom as quickly as possible, that would technically be the fastest way to do it. So maybe I would do that. The other possibility, obviously, is I would take that $1 million and I would just go buy 7 fixer-upper properties and burst strategy, all of them, and turn $1 million into $4 million in maybe a year and a half. So that's probably what I would do. If I had to go with how would I get started? How would I get started? As always, nothing changes in any way whatsoever. If you can house hack, do a house hack. I would still do the 5% down, move into the property, cut my living expenses down. I maybe would do a value add house hack because if I could find a way to add a little bit of equity to what I was house hacking, sure. But I would house hack, save all the rest of the money. And then once I've got that house hack, let's start investing that at a distance and then maybe combine it with a year later, do another house hack like Dion always suggests.
I love it. So very similar, handed $1 million, I would not take care of any debt, right? I worked very hard to get good debt. The last thing is I want it paid off. I like the asset protection. I like the levered depreciation. I would do kind of like you said with acquire some more rentals, turn $1 million into $4 million in the next couple of years, increase the cash flow, put the money to work. That's the point of money, right? Here's a short, Dragos. The difference between poor people, middle class, and wealthy people isn't how much money they have or how much money they make. Poor people think the purpose of money is to buy things. The middle class think the purpose of money is leverage. So they buy a big house and a big car with big debt so they can look successful. Wealthy people understand the purpose of money is to make more money. So I would take the $1 million. I would probably acquire with leverage more properties and add to my portfolio and cash flow. So I don't want $1 million. Nobody give it to me because I don't want more rentals. But that's what I would do with it. It's the most logical thing.
Your portfolio is going to give it to you.
It's going to give it to me a few times. So, but starting, there's a chronology to it. It would look very similar to what I did. First thing I do is buy a house hack, right? So that's owner occupied, best interest rate, lowest down payment, least amount of money put to work, set aside a certain amount for reserves, probably a couple $100,000 right in the beginning. Then I would buy one more rental because depending on my income source when starting out, my debt to income ratio would be limiting, even though I had the $1 million, because they don't look at that. They look at what you make every month and what you spend every month. Then I would have my house hack and my one rental that I acquired for 2 years. In 2 years, once I had rental income on 2 years tax returns, I would take the remainder of the money minus the reserves that I'm keeping because I'm not stupid, probably $50,000 in a reserve account. I take the remainder and I buy small multifamily in my market spread out, looking for cash flow and yield, and end up where I'm at now with a lot less time than it took because I invested $320,000 over a decade to create 2022. It was 2004 in profit. And so that was enough for me to reach financial freedom. That's how I would deploy it now, or if I was starting. Fun hypotheticals to do, but it's usually not $1 million that you're starting with. It's $5. And people think I can't do anything with $5, but if you don't start saving that 5, you'll never get to 1,000. You'll never get to 10. You'll never get that first rental. Saving starts with a small amount of money. We get better as we make more. We don't start when we make more. I like it. Gary.
People seriously underestimate the power of small incremental steps over time in the right direction. Nobody wants to save just the $5 and put the $5 away because it's nothing to brag about. It's nothing to be excited about. You can't talk to anyone about it. And so they don't. And they continue to waste that money in different ways all the time. And they never move forward. I see it all the time in my generation. I see these people post on my friends that I grew up with on Facebook, and they'll post, Yeah, I'm not going to save my way to financial freedom by not getting coffee every single day. It's like in reality, if you cut out Netflix and you get rid of going out to eat and you stopped paying for alcohol every other weekend and you didn't do the coffee and you didn't have a car payment and instead paid cash for a crappier car, and you put all of these things together, you're actually saving, $1,500 a month, which is massively substantial. And if you didn't live in the quite as nice an apartment as you wanted and instead downgraded into the area you didn't like as much, you could save a lot of money. Every month the new article comes out that people are living paycheck to paycheck, making six figures a year. It's because they have inflated into their salary and they don't have the discipline, they don't have the responsibility, they don't have the courage to actually do what it takes to become financially free. They would rather just sit on the sidelines and complain and cast stones at the people here in this chat and at Dion and at myself, for the ones who actually take action. And then they do the worst thing of all, which is 3, 4, 5, 6 years down the road. They just say, you got lucky. You started investing at a time when it was easier. And I point them to the comment section of my first videos where people were saying the exact same thing then that they're telling me now. And as Dion mentioned earlier, in 2028 and 2029, everyone's going to be sitting around saying, man, I wish I'd started in 24. Just like everybody here is saying, I wish I'd started in 2018. And when I started in 2018, they all said it's impossible because you didn't start in 2013. Don't listen to the excuses, ignore the haters, do the right thing anyways.
I liked breaking that down at our event in Vancouver. Here's the 1350, here's the thing everything said, because when you have memory issues, but you remember all of those things, I think it was like, oh, cool. I remember that, because I've never had a year where everybody wasn't saying, oh, it was so much easier 2-3 years ago. We missed it. Now it's never going to work.
But here's the secret. There's never been a year when everybody says right now is the right time to buy, but every single year was the right time to buy 5 years in the future.
Yeah, there hasn't been a time where it wasn't. Even 2008. If you bought in 2008, when we hit 2013, prices were above 2008. And people were saying, oh, I wish I can get it in 2008, because everybody was lending. And in 2013, everybody was saying, nope, it's going to crash. Don't buy now because we're above 2008 prices. Kumar says something I'm not sure I agree with. Builders controlling new inventory diligently. Sell 2 houses in 1 to 2 weeks, increase price by 10K. Prices still keep going up. Buyers exist at increased prices. Buyers do exist at increased prices. But building isn't where housing comes from. The cities, the municipalities are limiting building by making it too expensive to build. What's trapped properties is the interest rate lock. People can't sell to relocate. People can't sell to downsize. You used to retire, sell your 4-bedroom to go buy a 2-bedroom. Well, now the 2-bedroom costs just as much and the interest rate is twice as much. Or people are trapped because they refinanced in 2020. Now they've got a 3% interest rate. They can't even change location. So the inventory is trapped with people who can't sell more than it's trapped with builders. What we're seeing with builders, and the Crash Bros are using this information, and I'm quoting Zuber on this, from One Rental at a Time. You should check out the daily updates he does every morning at 7:30 on One Rental at a Time here on YouTube. But builders are building smaller houses. So it looks like new home prices are going down in some areas, not every area. Some areas they're going up. But that doesn't mean new home prices are crashing. It means they're building smaller houses. Jesse is stacking cash until my jobs are finished, and I'm going for more houses. That's my plan to get the Holy Grail, time freedom. That is the Holy Grail. And I wish somebody should take a screenshot here. Lumberjack Landlord said, Millennial Mike is exactly right.
Thanks, man. Appreciate that. I don't know what topic he was referring to, but I'm sure it was all of them.
And then this might be one of the last questions we cover here, but it's from Eugen. Howdy. Can you get a loan in USA from a US bank and purchase a property there? Apologies, as I pressed enter too quickly. As a foreigner, can loan money from a bank in the USA and buy a property in the USA? Yes, people do it all the time. Here's the caveat. If you're going to buy in the US with a US loan, yes, you can. You're going to need to be able to prove income, right, with a track record. So generally for here, it's tax returns, salary, pay stubs, whatever. So you're going to need some proof of income to qualify for the loan. If you're doing buy and hold, I think foreigners do pretty well. There's actually a channel called A Canadian Investing in the United States. You might want to look at that because he's closer than where you are, but it's still a foreigner investing in the United States. The thing that trips up foreigners is the FIRPTA tax. So if you're in the United States and you're an American, a United States citizen, and you buy a house for $1 million and you keep it for a year and you sell it for $1 million, you don't pay any taxes because it was $1 million and you sold it for $1 million. So there's no gain. If it gains $100,000, you're going to pay taxes on the gain of $100,000, depending on whether you do a 1031 or if you live there for more than 2 years. There's all kinds of ways around not paying the taxes as a citizen. If you're a foreigner and you sell a property in the United States, this is what sucks. Let's say you pay $1 million for a property and you keep it for a year and you sell it for $1 million. The FIRPTA tax is 15% of the gross sale, not the profit. So you can buy it for $1 million, and if you sell it for $1 million, you're paying $150,000 in taxes. And I've bought a property that was sold by a foreigner who purchased it, kept it for 20 years. It was paid off. They had depreciation recapture. They had the FIRPTA tax. They still walked away with hundreds of thousands of dollars in profit and the cash flow that they had for all those years. So can you invest long-term, buy and hold successfully as a foreigner? I believe so. Flipping, maybe not. Planning on selling in just a few years? Probably not the smartest thing. Right. So I would do some research on how that tax impacts your investing here. But yes, I know foreigners can get loans here. You just have to be able to prove consistent income to satisfy their needs, the lender's needs. Mike, how can people find you if they want to reach out with more questions? And take note of any other questions. If there's something we can make a future video on, let me know.
Yeah, well, people can reach out to me if they go on Instagram or YouTube at Millennial Mike, and I recommend that this Oculus One guy absolutely do, because he said if someone gave him $1 million, the first thing he'd do is pay the IRS their half. Completely wrong. Clearly, you don't own enough real estate. The first thing you do is you go out, buy a bunch of real estate, pull forward that depreciation, and don't pay a penny in tax on that $1 million. So if you don't want to make critically terrible financial mistakes like Oculus One is going to make, you absolutely need to follow me on Instagram and on YouTube, because I will prevent you from losing $500,000 in unnecessary taxes.
Yeah, it's a lot more tricky than that. Hire a CPA. If you're just given the money, there is going to be a tax obligation. But if you could put the money to work and get the right levered depreciation, you could probably carry forward a loss, even if you're given $1 million. My taxes for last year are phenomenal.
Yeah.
This real estate stuff, I should wrap the video up with this. Imagine making $20,000 a month and being able to tell the IRS that if I make a profit in 2024, here's the loss I'm going to use against that. It's like Congress is full of property owners who keep making laws that benefit property owners. Until my next video, thanks for coming to our Dion and Mike talk. And we're off. And I'm going to look through the